This is one of our favorite side dishes here. It's either potato, pasta, or rice around the Abruzzese household. And marinara sauce is a staple. Whenever we're going to have it with dinner, I like to get the sauce started and on the stove. And then worry about the main course later. And the main course later is going to be these delicious pork chops with a famous Abruzzese finish. They're Byrne family, B-Y-R-N-E, pork chops. With a little Abruzzese finish. So let's start with the marinara sauce. So just a can of whole plum tomatoes. We take a blender, add the can of beautifully grown and packaged tomatoes by Tutto Rosso, all red, Tutto Rosso. And this part you have to listen for. You'll hear when it's ready. And that was pretty much it. You don't want to blend them too much.
What took so long?
Well, if you do, you end up with tomato soup or tomato sauce. And remember, there's seeds in there. You don't want to blend the seeds too much. The sauce will get bitter. Take a medium saucepan, your favorite medium saucepan. Put it on a medium heat, medium saucepan. Get that warmed up. It's time to chop a little garlic. This doesn't have to be anything fancy, minced, or it's just a basic chop. And the way I like to do it every day, I cut garlic 3 different ways basically, but for this chop I just half, you see people banging it really hard. You don't have to. All you have to do is break the peel and the garlic pops out of its shell. And then I've cut a few slices and then chop. So there's a nice generous amount of garlic, 2 good-sized cloves. I put the garlic in, and then, yes, of course, I put the olive oil in after.
Why? So
On nice medium heat. Because if I put the olive oil in first and it gets too hot and I put the garlic in right away, it'll turn black just like that. When that browns, we'll add the tomatoes. And when I say browns, I mean toasts. I like to tell people if they like their toast light, then they should have their garlic light. And by the way, if you're running late and you want people to think you've been cooking all day, just fry some garlic. That's starting to smell good. So let's do it that way, right? And then we want to take the can, add a half a cup to a cup of water, get all the extra tomato drippings, and put that in. And now when you're boiling the tomatoes, you won't be boiling away the lovely tomatoes, you'll be boiling away the water you added. Now that is marinara sauce. I think we should start with the famous Byrne family pork chops. These are 4 beautiful pork chops, and you can tell a beautiful pork chop because there's real fine lines of fat running all the way through it. This was one healthy, well-raised swine, a pig, hog. But at any rate, we're just going to add some cooking oil. This is what we use for cooking oil. It comes in a gallon container. It's 90% vegetable oil, 10% olive oil. Let's take a little bit of coarse salt. And you don't have to use coarse salt. I'm using it because it's here. But when you're frying things, it wouldn't hurt to use regular Morton salt or a real fine sea salt. This is a lot of pepper, and again, this is such a simple dish that the flavor has to come from somewhere. Looks like our temperature is just about right. You'll be able to tell when you're frying things. I always like to tell people to make sure that they land it away from them. So if there's a splash, as opposed to landing it this way, if there's a splash, it goes away from you. Try and get the meat part towards the center of the frying pan. That time we put the bone part toward the center. All right, again, that's on a medium to medium-high heat. Marinara sauce, we want to give that a little stir, and I just turned it up to high. You really should, after you add the tomatoes, you should turn it on high. The reason is because whenever I'm making a tomato sauce or gravy of some sort, my father always taught me to bring the temperature up, bring the flame up to where the sauce will stir itself. I like to turn pork chops very carefully with a fork. I don't like tongs because they can get a little slippery, and this I control things better. Again, flip away from you. Oh boy, does that smell good. Now, we're going to add a little flavor to that pan. You know, you watch Julia Child and all the cooking shows growing up, and everyone uses shallot to flavor sauces, so that's what we're going to do. All right, and our marinara sauce is stirring itself now. Our pork chops are browned for flavor, and we're going to add some shallots. I'm going to put the burner on low. And we're going to slowly, very slowly, get these closer to temperature. The pan is dark from the searing of the pork chops, so there's lots of flavor there. There's flavor in the salt and pepper, the pork bones, and now the shallots. Okay, now the pork chops, we're going to flip them one more time. Now you can see that they have that delicious looking glazed coating on the outside, and the shallots are now caramelized. So the only thing that needs to become a dish is two things really. One is a little chicken stock, which we're going to use canned because ours isn't ready yet. One is chicken stock, and the other, of course, is butter. There's only one thing better than butter, and that's more butter. One thing I should do, because again, that sauce isn't done. These pork chops are done. So I'm not going to cook them when I'm reducing this. So I added chicken stock, and you can see the color of those shallots is just delicious. There is some salt in this chicken stock. You can use low sodium, which I do occasionally because I'm a little heavy-handed with the kosher salt. We're going to bring that to a boil and reduce it for just a couple of minutes, not even a couple of minutes. Here's that marinara sauce stirring itself. That means that the pulp is not laying on the bottom. It's circulating to the top. So just the heat from that sauce is melting the butter. And in turn, the butter is reacting with the stock and thickening it. The slogan around here is, I spent all this time cooking, I want it to look nice. For just a little extra work, it looks nice. All right, so now that marinara sauce is probably 10 minutes away from being, or 5 minutes away from being done. We're going to turn it down, let it simmer. I turn the water up, and we're going to boil some pasta.